The stars shone bright against the deep black of space as the hospital ship Compassion glided through the void. Its white hull gleamed, marked clearly with large red crosses that could be seen from any approach vector. Captain Olivia Wright stood on the bridge, her eyes focused on the blue-green planet growing larger on the main screen. "How long until we reach Proxima Centauri IV?" she asked, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. 3 hours, Captain," replied the navigator, Jack Wilson. His fingers moved quickly across the control panel. "We're maintaining optimal approach speed for medical transport conditions." Captain Wright nodded. The Compassion had responded to many distress calls during her 5 years in command, but something about this one felt different. The message had been brief. A frontier colony struck by an unknown illness that had already claimed 50 lives. "Captain," called Maria Gonzalez from her communications station. "I'm picking up some unusual transmissions near the colony. Encrypted, not matching any known human patterns." "Could be mining corporations," Wright suggested. "They often use proprietary encryption. Keep monitoring but focus on our approach clearance." The captain tapped her comm badge. "Bridge to medical. Dr. Carter, what's your status?" In the ship's vast medical bay, Dr. Daniel Carter looked up from his preparation checklist. Around him, medical staff arranged beds and calibrated equipment. The Compassion was the most advanced hospital ship in Earth's fleet, capable of treating thousands of patients from dozens of species. "We're ready for triage and intake, Captain," Carter replied. "Initial reports suggest a respiratory pathogen. We've prepared isolation protocols and broad-spectrum treatments." Nurse Patricia Johnson moved beside him, checking supply cabinets. "The containment units are prepped, Doctor, and I've configured the biofilters for unknown pathogen detection." Carter nodded gratefully. Patricia had served with him for 3 years. Her calm efficiency had saved countless lives during the refugee crisis on Europa. "The colony reports 200 sick, 50 critical," he told her. "We'll need all hands when we arrive." Back on the bridge, Captain Wright reviewed the Compassion's approach path. The ship carried no weapons, not even defensive shields that could be reconfigured for attack. International space law was clear. Medical vessels remain neutral in all conflicts, serving anyone in need. "Broadcast our identification and mission on all standard frequencies," Wright ordered. "I want everyone in this system to know we're a hospital ship on a mercy mission." "Broadcasting now," Gonzalez confirmed, also sending the Universal Medical Assistance signal. Officer Alan Foster stood at the security station, frowning at his display. "Captain, sensors are picking up unusual energy readings from the far side of the planet's moon." "Natural phenomenon?" Wright asked. "Doesn't match any known patterns. Could be mining operations, but—" Wright didn't like unknowns, but the Compassion had a mission. The ship had earned the nickname Angel of the Void for good reason. Over the past decade, it had served in 3 major conflict zones, treating both human and alien casualties without discrimination. "Maintain course. Keep broadcasting our status," she decided, "and alert me if those energy readings change." In his quarters, young communications specialist Kevin Martinez finished recording a message for his family back on Earth. This was his first deep space mission, and despite the serious nature of their task, he couldn't help feeling excited. "We're about to help a whole colony," he said to the camera. "Dr. Carter says I'll be coordinating emergency transmissions between the ship and the surface medical teams. The Compassion is amazing, Mom. You should see how everyone works together here." As the hospital ship continued its approach, none of the crew could know that the encrypted transmissions Maria had detected weren't from mining corporations, nor could they guess that the energy readings behind the moon weren't natural phenomena. The Compassion moved forward on its mission of mercy, red crosses glowing against its white hull, broadcasting peace and aid to all who could hear. In 3 hours, they would reach orbit and begin saving lives. Or so they thought. The Compassion entered orbit around Proxima Centauri IV, its engines humming softly as it settled into position. Captain Wright watched the planet's surface on the main screen, her eyes drawn to the small cluster of lights that marked the human colony. "We've established stable orbit, Captain," Jack reported. "Perfect position for shuttle deployment to the main settlement." "Good work." Wright tapped her comm badge. "Bridge to medical. Dr. Carter, prepare your teams for deployment. We'll begin shuttling patients up within the hour." On the medical deck, Dr. Carter acknowledged the order and turned to his staff. "First response team, gear up. Remember your containment protocols." The ship vibrated slightly as the medical shuttles were prepared in the launch bay. Nurse Johnson checked her medical kit one last time. The mood was focused, professional. A routine mission of mercy for the Compassion's seasoned crew. "Captain," Maria's voice cut through the calm. "3 vessels just appeared on sensors. They weren't there a moment ago." Wright turned sharply. "What do you mean appeared?" "They must have been using some kind of cloaking technology," Alan said from the security station. 3 ships, unknown configuration. They're surrounding us in a triangular formation." On the view screen, 3 dark vessels materialized against the stars. Their hulls were angular, covered with strange geometric patterns that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Alien vessels identified as Krelthak's design," the computer announced. "Species status: neutral. Limited diplomatic contact with Earth established 4 years ago." Wright straightened her uniform. "Open a channel. All frequencies." "Channel open," Maria confirmed. "Attention Krelthak's vessels. This is Captain Olivia Wright of the United Nations hospital ship Compassion. We are on a medical mission to assist the human colony below. We are unarmed and protected under Galactic Treaty Article 7 covering medical vessels." The bridge crew waited. Seconds stretched into a full minute with no response. "They're scanning us," Alan reported. "Deep scan, very invasive. They can see we have no weapons." Wright frowned. "Repeat our broadcast. Add translation matrices for all known Krelthak's dialects." Before Maria could comply, the alien ships began to move. "Captain, they're taking up attack positions," Alan shouted. "That's impossible," Wright said. "We're clearly marked as a medical vessel. Broadcast visual feed of our hull markings along with identification codes." The red crosses on the Compassion's white hull stood out clearly against the blackness of space in the transmission. The message was universal across known space. "This ship helps the sick and injured. This ship is not to be harmed." "No response to our transmission," Maria said, her voice tight with tension. "But they're communicating with each other." Suddenly, the ship rocked violently. Warning signals blared across the bridge as red emergency lights activated. "We're hit," Alan called out. "Port medical bay has been breached. They're firing again." Wright gripped her command chair. "This is Captain Wright of the hospital ship Compassion. We are an unarmed medical vessel. Please cease fire immediately." Another blast rocked the ship. Panels exploded on the bridge, sending sparks cascading across the floor. The lights flickered and dimmed. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, the computer reported calmly. "Life support failing in sections 14 through 22. In the medical bay, Dr. Carter was thrown against a wall as the ship shuddered. Equipment crashed around him. He pulled himself up, ears ringing. "Get everyone to the escape pods," he shouted to Nurse Johnson. "Priority to the critical patients." On the bridge, Captain Wright made a decision. "Alan, activate all emergency distress beacons. Maria, send continuous broadcast of our status and the unprovoked attack." "The main communications array is damaged," Maria said, fingers flying over her console. Switching to backup systems. Another hit sent the ship lurching to one side. Support beams crashed down from the ceiling. "They're targeting our engines and life support," Alan reported, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. "This isn't random. They're trying to cripple us completely." Wright looked at the alien ships on a cracked view screen, her expression hardened with disbelief. The Compassion shuddered again as more weapons fire struck its unprotected hull. A ship of healing, under attack without warning or reason. Smoke filled the corridors of the Compassion as emergency lights cast eerie red shadows across walls that had once been pristine white. Dr. Carter moved through the medical bay, helping injured crew members toward the escape pods. "This way," he shouted over the blaring alarms. "We need to move quickly." Nurse Johnson appeared through the smoke, supporting an injured technician. "The East Wing is completely gone, Doctor. We've lost at least 40 people already." Carter's face was grim as he helped another patient into a pod. "What about the colonists we were coming to treat? We never got the chance to bring them aboard." Johnson wiped soot from her face. "Small mercy, I suppose." Another blast rocked the ship, stronger than the previous ones. The deck plates beneath them buckled. "Structural integrity compromised," announced the computer voice, somehow still calm. "Complete ship failure estimated in 12 minutes." On what remained of the bridge, Captain Wright worked at the only functioning console. Her uniform was torn, the burn mark visible on her right arm. Around her, most of her bridge crew lay motionless. "Captain," Maria called weakly from her damaged station. "I've patched into the backup communication system." Wright moved to her side. "Can you broadcast?" "Limited range, but yes." Maria coughed, blood speckling her lips. "What's the message?" Wright looked at the shattered view screen, still showing the 3 Krelthax ships continuing their methodical destruction of the Compassion. "Record this." Wright straightened despite her injuries. "This is Captain Olivia Wright of the UNHS Compassion. We are under attack by 3 Krelthax vessels. Our ship is clearly marked as a medical vessel. We carry no weapons. We were on a mission of mercy to the colony on Proxima Centauri IV." The ship shuddered again. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut in distant sections. The attack was unprovoked. "We made no aggressive moves. We identified ourselves clearly." Wright's voice remained steady despite the chaos around her. "I wanted on record that my crew conducted themselves with honor until the end, attempting to save as many lives as possible." In the communication room 2 decks below, young Kevin Martinez worked feverishly at his station. He had heard the captain's message being recorded and knew it might be humanity's only evidence of what happened here. "I need more power," he muttered to himself, rerouting systems. The distress beacon was functioning but weak, not strong enough to reach beyond this system. No one would know what happened here. Kevin made a decision. He redirected power from life support in his section to the communication array. The air immediately grew thinner, but he ignored it, focusing on his task. "Just need to boost the signal," he gasped, fingers flying across the controls. "Just a little more range." Back in the medical bay, Dr. Carter and Nurse Johnson had loaded the last of the mobile patients into escape pods. "That's everyone who can be moved," Johnson said, her voice breaking. "The others." Carter put a hand on her shoulder. "We stay with them. That's our duty." Johnson nodded, tears cutting clean tracks through the soot on her face. "It has been an honor, Doctor." In the launch control room, Alan Foster worked with shaking hands to prepare the escape pods for ejection. His head wound had stopped bleeding, but dizziness threatened to overwhelm him. 34 survivors loaded in pods, he reported over the failing comm system. "Launching now." The small pods shot away from the dying hospital ship, each one carrying a handful of survivors. On the view screen, Alan watched with horror as the Krelthax ships turned their weapons toward the fleeing pods. "No," he whispered, "they wouldn't." But they did. Precision fire destroyed most of the pods in seconds. Only a few slipped past, tumbling into the darkness of space. In the communication room, Kevin Martinez smiled as his console showed a successful transmission. The captain's final message, along with the ship's logs and visual evidence of the attack, was now broadcasting on an emergency frequency powerful enough to reach Earth Command. His work complete, Kevin closed his eyes as the air grew too thin to breathe. The Compassion broke apart in a final explosion, a white and red funeral pyre against the blackness of space. Admiral Howard Clark was reviewing patrol schedules when the message came through. He sat in his office aboard the space station orbiting Ta Ceti, surrounded by star charts and fleet deployment plans. A soft chime from his computer interrupted his work. "Admiral, urgent transmission from Proxima Centauri system," his aide said through the comm system. "Priority Alpha." Clark frowned. "Put it through." The screen lit up, showing a damaged ship bridge filled with smoke. A woman with burns on her face and determination in her eyes spoke clearly despite the chaos around her. "This is Captain Olivia Wright of the UNHS Compassion. We are under attack by 3 Krelthax vessels. Our ship is clearly marked as a medical vessel." As the message played, Clark's expression hardened. By the time it finished, he was already moving. "Get me Earth Command immediately," he ordered, "and prepare my ship for departure." 12 hours later, the United Nations Security Council gathered an emergency session in New York. Representatives from all Earth nations and colony worlds watched the footage from the Compassion in stunned silence. "The evidence is clear," said Secretary General Gabriela Ortiz. "The hospital ship Compassion was clearly marked, broadcasting proper identification and carrying no weapons. The attack was unprovoked and deliberate." The representative from the African Union stood. "This is not just an attack on a ship. This is an attack on the very principles of mercy and medical neutrality that all civilized species have honored for centuries." "What do we know about survivors?" asked the European Coalition delegate. Admiral Clark stepped forward. "A merchant vessel picked up 3 escape pods containing 7 crew members and 4 patients. They confirm Captain Wright's account. Out of 287 personnel aboard the Compassion, only 11 survived." The room fell silent again as the weight of those numbers settled on everyone present. "And the Krelthax?" asked the Asian Alliance representative. "Have they responded to diplomatic inquiries?" "They have," said the diplomatic officer, Betty Rodriguez. Their response was brief. "Human medical technology is a form of warfare and will be treated as such." They closed all communication channels after that statement. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Secretary General Ortiz called for order. "The question before us is clear," she said firmly. "How will Earth respond to this act of war?" In the military planning room next door, Fleet Commander Susan Miller examined the tactical displays showing Krelthax territory and Earth's available forces. "The UNS Judgment can reach their home system in 4 days at maximum speed," she told the officers gathered around her. "With support vessels, we can assemble a formidable response force." "What are our objectives?" asked a young officer. Miller looked at him. "The Security Council will determine that. But we prepare for all possibilities." Back in the council chamber, the vote was unanimous. Secretary General Ortiz faced the cameras broadcasting to all human settlements across multiple star systems. "Today, an unprovoked attack on a vessel of healing has forced our hand. The United Nations hereby authorizes the formation of Task Force Retribution to seek justice for the crew of the Compassion." In a hospital on the Mars colony, survivor nurse Patricia Johnson watched the broadcast from her bed. Her body was healing, but the memories remained fresh. "They need to know why," she told the doctor, checking her vitals. "Why would anyone attack a hospital ship?" "Perhaps we'll find answers," the doctor said gently. On the military station near Jupiter, Commander Jeffrey Barnes received his new orders. His tactical expertise would be needed for the mission ahead. As he read the briefing, he paused at the images of the Compassion before and after the attack. "This won't be about revenge," he murmured to himself. "This has to be about justice." Across Earth's territories, military vessels changed course, gathering for the response that would show the galaxy how humanity reacted when its most sacred principles were violated. The attack on a ship of healing would not go unanswered. The dreadnought UNS Judgment hung in space like a metal island, its dark hull reflecting distant starlight. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built, nearly 2 kilometers long. bristling with weapons systems and protected by the most advanced shields in Earth's arsenal. Commander Jeffrey Barnes stood at the viewport in the tactical room, watching as 6 destroyer-class vessels took formation around the flagship. Each destroyer was a formidable warship in its own right. Together, they formed Task Force Retribution. "All ships report ready, Commander," said Lieutenant Paul Johnson from his station. "Formation is complete." Barnes nodded. "And our special equipment?" "The EMP systems have been installed on all vessels," Johnson confirmed. "Tested and operational." Unlike standard military deployments, this task force carried weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. The EMP technology could shut down ship systems without killing crews. It was a measured approach, typical of how humans waged war, with restraint even in the face of atrocity. On the bridge, Admiral Howard Clark took his place in the command chair. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, a sense of purpose filling the air. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Earth," called out the communications officer. The main screen activated, showing Secretary General Ortiz. "Admiral Clark, you have the full authorization of Earth Command. Your mission is clear. Bring those responsible for the attack on the Compassion to justice, and ensure such an attack never happens again." Clark nodded solemnly. "Understood, Madam Secretary. We will not fail." The screen switched to a tactical display of Krelthax territory. Intelligence Officer Lisa Campbell stepped forward. She had spent the past weeks studying everything known about the Krelthax species. "Our analysts have been working to understand why they attacked a hospital ship," she explained. "We've translated more of their communications from the attack. It appears they believe our medical technology is a form of biological warfare." Barnes frowned. "That makes no sense. The Compassion was there to treat an illness, not spread one." "The Krelthax have a different biology," Campbell continued. "Our medical treatments would be toxic to them. They seem to have made the mistake of assuming our medicine is designed as a weapon against them." "A tragic misunderstanding, then," Admiral Clark said quietly. "But one they made no attempt to verify before attacking," Barnes added. "They could have communicated their concerns." Clark stood and addressed the bridge crew. "This changes nothing about our mission, but it does inform our approach. We go to deliver justice, not vengeance. Remember that distinction." In the engine room, Chief Engineer Greg Taylor monitored the massive drives as they prepared for faster-than-light travel. The Judgment's engines were powerful enough to distort space itself, allowing the massive ship to cross vast distances in days rather than decades. "All systems green," he reported. "Ready for jump when ordered." Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Dr. Elizabeth Turner prepared her staff and equipment. She had been a colleague of Dr. Carter from the Compassion during medical school. This mission was personal for her. "We'll be ready for casualties," she told her team. "Remember, we treat anyone who needs our help, human or Krelthax." Back on the bridge, Admiral Clark gave the order. "All ships, prepare for jump to Krelthax territory." The task force's engines flared to life, creating swirling distortions in space. As they prepared to depart, Clark ordered a final message to be broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Howard Clark of Earth Task Force Retribution. We are en route to Krelthax territory in response to the unprovoked attack on our hospital ship Compassion. Our message is simple. You attacked those who heal. We come for justice, not vengeance." The message went out in all known languages, including the recently translated Krelthax dialects. The ships of Task Force Retribution vanished into faster-than-light travel, carrying Earth's response to those who had broken one of humanity's most sacred principles, that those who come to heal should never be harmed. Task Force Retribution emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Krelthax home system. The 7 Earth warships arranged themselves in battle formation as their sensors scanned the area ahead. 27 Krelthax warships detected, reported the sensor officer on the U.S. Judgment. They'd formed a defensive line around their homeworld. Admiral Clark studied the tactical display. The Krelthax ships were smaller than Earth vessels but more numerous. They had positioned themselves to block any approach to their planet. "They were expecting us," Commander Barnes observed. "Of course they were," Clark replied. "They attacked a hospital ship. They knew we would respond." On the main screen, the Krellfax homeworld came into view. It was a blue-green planet with 2 small moons, not unlike Earth. Cities could be seen glittering on the surface. Millions of civilians who had nothing to do with the attack on the Compassion. "Open a channel," Clark ordered. "All frequencies." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." "This is Admiral Howard Clark of Earth Task Force Retribution. We come seeking justice for the unprovoked attack on our hospital ship. Surrender those responsible, and we can resolve this without further bloodshed." Minutes passed with no response. Then the Krellfax fleet began to move, spreading out into an attack formation. "They're powering weapons," the tactical officer reported. Clark's expression hardened. "So be it. Commander Barnes, initiate Operation Mercy." Barnes moved to the tactical station and entered a series of commands. On all 7 Earth vessels, crews prepared for battle. "All ships, this is Commander Barnes. Operation Mercy is now active. Remember your targets. Minimal casualties, maximum effectiveness." The Krellfax fleet fired first, a barrage of energy weapons streaking across space toward the Earth vessels. The UNS Judgment's shields flared as they absorbed the impacts. "Shields holding at 90%, reported the defensive systems officer. "Return fire," Clark ordered. "Target their weapons systems only." The Earth fleet responded with precision. Unlike the Krellfax's wide barrage, each human shot was carefully aimed at weapons emplacements and engine sections. The goal was not to destroy the enemy ships, but to render them unable to fight. "First wave of EMP torpedoes away," Barnes announced. The special weapons streaked toward the Krellfax ships. When they detonated, they released pulses of electromagnetic energy rather than explosive force. 5 enemy vessels suddenly went dark, drifting powerless in space. "Their central command ship is still active," Barnes noted. "It must have better shielding." Clark nodded. "Focus fire on their flagship's propulsion. Lieutenant Johnson, prepare a boarding party." The battle continued for another hour. The Earth fleet moved with practiced precision, disabling ship after ship without destroying them. When a Krellfax vessel lost power, human ships broadcast images of the hospital ship attack on all frequencies, ensuring the enemy crews knew why they were being defeated. Lieutenant Paul Johnson led a team of 20 soldiers aboard the Krellfax command ship after its engines had been disabled. They moved through the alien corridors, encountering only minimal resistance. "The command center should be ahead," Johnson told his team. "Remember, we're here to capture, not kill." They breached the command center and found a dozen Krellfax officers. The aliens had scaly blue skin and large eyes that blinked rapidly in surprise. "By authority of Earth Command, you are detained for questioning regarding the attack on the UNHS Compassion," Johnson stated firmly. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Lisa Campbell made a surprising discovery. "Admiral, we're picking up transmissions from the planet's surface. It seems the civilian population is seeing our broadcast of the hospital ship attack." "And?" Clark asked. "They're protesting against their own military," Campbell said, sounding surprised. "It appears their government never told them they had attacked a medical vessel. Their outrage." On the view screen, they could see crowds gathering in the Krellfax cities. Signs were visible even from orbit, translated by the ship's computers. "Stop the war," and "medical ships are sacred." Commander Barnes looked at Admiral Clark. "It seems we're not the only ones who believe some things should be off-limits in war." Clark nodded. "Broadcast a new message to the planet. Tell them we seek justice, not their destruction." 3 days after the battle, Admiral Clark stood in the Grand Hall of the Krellfax High Council. The room was filled with representatives from both species, human diplomats in their formal uniforms and Krellfax leaders in their ceremonial robes. The mood was solemn but hopeful. "A high command of the Krellfax fleet surrenders to Earth forces, announced Supreme Leader Vexcor, his translator device converting his clicking speech to English. "We acknowledge the unjust attack on your vessel of healing." Admiral Clark nodded. Behind him stood Commander Barnes and Lieutenant Johnson, their faces showing neither triumph nor hatred. "Earth accepts your surrender," Clark replied. "As agreed, those directly responsible for ordering the attack will face trial under interspecies law." In the corner of the hall, 5 Krelthax military commanders stood under guard. They had been identified as the ones who had given the order to fire on the Compassion. Their scales had dulled to a pale blue in shame. "They will face justice," Vexcor agreed. "But we ask for understanding as well. Our species has suffered biological warfare in our past. The fear of medical technology being used as a weapon runs deep in our culture." Clark's expression softened slightly. "Fear explains actions, but does not excuse them. Still, we come seeking justice, not revenge. The trial will be fair." Outside the Grand Hall, the streets of the Krelthax capital were filled with citizens holding vigils for the humans who had died aboard the Compassion. Many carried images of the Red Cross symbol as a sign of respect. 1 month later, the Interspecies Tribunal convened on neutral territory, a space station orbiting a star between Earth and Krelthax space. Representatives from 12 spacefaring species served as judges, ensuring fairness for all involved. Dr. Elizabeth Turner, one of the few survivors from the Compassion, approached the witness stand. Her uniform still bore the medical insignia of her lost ship. "The Compassion was on a mission of mercy," she testified, her voice steady despite her grief. "We had medicines prepared for human colonists suffering from a respiratory illness. Nothing aboard could have harmed the Krelthax population." The tribunal listened as testimony continued for days. Evidence was presented, motives were examined, and finally, a verdict was reached. The attack on the hospital ship Compassion was a violation of interstellar law, announced the chief judge, a tall Arcturian with silver skin. "However, we recognize the cultural misunderstanding that contributed to this tragedy." The sentence came as a surprise to many. Rather than imprisonment, the Krelthax commanders were ordered to serve aboard joint human-Krelthax medical ships. They would work alongside human doctors, learning about medical technology and helping to build trust between the species. "Their punishment is to heal, not to suffer," explained the Arcturian judge. "Just as the Compassion sought to heal, so too must the path forward." 6 months later, a new ship left Earth's orbital shipyard. The UNHS Reconciliation gleamed white against the darkness of space, its hull marked with both the human Red Cross and the Krelthax healing symbol, a spiral of blue light. On its bridge stood Captain Greg Miller, formerly an officer aboard the Judgment. Beside him stood a Krelthax medical officer, one of many who had volunteered to serve aboard the new vessel. "Course set for the Gamma Hyper system," reported the navigator. "They've reported an outbreak affecting both human and Krelthax colonists." "Proceed at best speed," ordered Captain Miller. "We have patients waiting." On Earth, in a quiet memorial garden, Admiral Clark and Commander Barnes stood before a monument. It was shaped like the Compassion, with the names of all 276 lost crew members etched into its surface. Fresh flowers had been placed at its base, some from human hands, others from Krelthax visitors. "Was it worth it?" Barnes asked quietly. "The cost was so high." Clark looked at the new symbol that had been added to the monument. The Reconciliation, flying alongside its predecessor in eternal formation. "They attacked a hospital ship," he said softly. "And instead of destroying them, we taught them why that was wrong." "Yes, Commander. It was worth it." In the vastness of space, the Reconciliation continued on its mission, carrying the legacy of the Compassion forward, a testament to humanity's greatest strength, the ability to seek justice but offer healing.